wow, playing through RuneScape. Seems like most MMOs, I would say, is that
they're all just shit games that are getting by because of their gimmick of having online players.
yeah, of having being MMOs, being massively multiplayer online games. If you took that out,
That is a hot take.
That's a hot take. I feel like it's
Star Wars Galaxy, the only good MMO that's ever been.
Yeah, I feel like the good MMOs that ever existed are like.
Say it. Go ahead and say Ragnarok Online.
No, I can't.
Fucking sweaty motherfucker.
That game sucks. The thing is, the fact that the game kind of sucks though, right? Like the movement's clunky, it's so much lag, so unresponsive. The grind, the unbelievable grind. There's no story.
Yeah, but it was like what other game are you going to be able to basically just take your Gaia Online avatar into the game world and go shiv somebody?
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean though. Is that other than that fact, like we look at the game itself, it's kind of a shitty game. But
okay, and on that note,
yeah.
Good morning, gamers. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Colonel Frank, aka Mr. Mean Tone. Joining me here today is my friend and yours,
S62 Kirby,
aka
the Parfait,
aka
Sweeten the Cut.
Oh shit. And today we're talking about JRPGs.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I kind of want to open the floor to kind of more of a discussion on just kind of when people say, certain genres don't really jive with the modern audience. I kind of want to dive into that topic a little bit. Because, in fact, I've been playing a JRPG a lot lately, Metaphor. A lot of people have been playing it. Just came out from Atlas Studios.
That's right. Turn-based combat. Do the kids like it?
Yeah, I think it's a question that comes up a lot these days. Usually surrounding our friends at Square Enix, usually. But, whenever a new Final Fantasy comes out, it's never a turn-based game. It hasn't been a turn-based game in 10 years now. Over 10 years, I would say, at this point.
Since 10.2.
Yeah, since 10.2, honestly, yeah. Yeah.
10.2 was like fully turn-based, right?
Yeah, it was ATV system, but still turn-based, whatever. After that, they've, 12 has like a weird MMO-like system, and then 13 has ATV
12,
still.
Yeah,
kind
12
of.
is a
they all have like a modified ATV
weird
after that.
action RPG thing. 12 is kind of like KOTOR.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
where it's like
KOTOR.
it has like turn-based mechanics going on in the background, but it's trying to sell the player on the fact that they're playing like an action RPG when they ain't.
Yeah, well, it also has like the kind of programming your NPC systems from like Dragon Age Origins is in that game too, like the all
yes.
that. Yeah, they kind of harkens like PC RPGs have a lot of those automation things. But I digress. Final Fantasy has not had like a traditional turn-based system since 10.2, pretty much.
In too long.
Very
10 too long.
Well, yeah, for too long is what the veterans would say. So, every time a new Final Fantasy trailer comes out, they drop it. It either looks like, Kingdom Hearts or more recently now Devil May Cry. 16 basically it's just Devil May Cry, essentially. So,
But Saeed, isn't Devil May Cry a good game?
yeah, Devil May Cry is a good game. That's a fact. Is that Devil May Cry is a good game, and Kingdom Hearts is a decent combat system as well. So these aren't bad decisions, but I want to play a turn-based game sometimes, and Final Fantasy used to be the franchise you could look to for a good, fun turn-based system with usually a fun gimmick, whether it's like a job system or it's like the junction system.
Materia.
Yeah, materia system. Whatever it turned out to be, it was always, some kind of turn-based system with, a kind of a fun gimmick or two in there.
Yeah, some kind of turn-based system that had some kind of fat to chew on.
Yeah.
Like some kind of... like interesting characteristic. Yeah.
And then, so like what happens is the veterans go, they start crying, like, oh my God, I want my turn-based combat. I want to play Devil May Cry.
This is me.
And then the modern dudes.
For anyone who's curious, this is me.
This is also me. And then the modern dudes are like, but Final Fantasy is always different, which is true. Final Fantasy as a franchise has always mixed it up quite a lot, but from game to game to game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
But no way, it always stayed the same.
They never turned into Zelda, like a fucking top-down Zelda game. They were action,
Right. There are certain things that you kind of like come to expect.
Yeah.
But when you make departures away from those, that's like, that's not always a bad thing when you make departures away. Like Final Fantasy VII was a departure from 6 and before.
Yeah, but they never went so crazy as to like, they never turned into a platformer. They never swapped entire genres. And these days, they're swapping entire genres pretty much. Final Fantasy 16 has the the minimum requirement to be considered an action RPG. You know, the very minimum required to be considered one.
I mean, isn't that just an evolution from where 15 like left us though?
See, and I really challenge the notion of like evolution, because everyone says that, but like, you know, this is an evolution.
Well, because you can see where it goes from
can see
12
it.
to then like 13. 13 is a bit of a departure, right?
of.
13 is kind of like right, but not that right, but kind of.
Yeah.
Every time it's like kind of.
But it's still like an
But like
ATV
13,
system.
15, 16, I feel like you can.
You could
Does
definitely
that,
see. Yeah,
you
could
don't
definitely
you don't
see
call
it.
that an evolution?
No, I wouldn't. Cause I would still call 13 a mostly turn-based game for the most part. It has its own spin on it, but it still uses a very similar ATV system as some of the older games. Is it the same? No, it's definitely not the same. But it's definitely not a literal action game like 15 and 16. That's the thing, is that 15 and 16 have changed. To me, they've changed genres. 13's a weird like hybrid system,
Right.
but it's not an action game.
Right.
It's definitely not an action game. But 15 is an action game. An action RPG.
But you don't call that like an evolution. You call that just like a straight up.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, because they're not doing something completely different every time. They are.
Yeah.
You can
They've been
you can
built-
see the steps in which they iterated to evolve to get there. You know.
True. They were building on this ATB system since 4. Final Fantasy 4 is the first game that introduced this action time battle system, and they've been building on it. Chrono Trigger built on, all these games that were building and building and building on it. Then we hit like 13 and 13.2 and even Lightning Returns kind of further built on it. But to me, once you move from 13 to 15, you've now discarded the ATB system, and you are now playing an action RPG. And then you move from 15 to 16,
correct.
you've now dropped the RPG, and now we are playing an action
action
game.
game.
And we're basically
Yeah.
just playing an action game. And like, yeah, you could maybe call that evolution because the ATB system exists to start to focus more on the real time and less on like the turn-based aspects.
Yeah.
Ever since 4.
Right.
Like even
To bring more action and less strategy.
exactly. I mean, the whole first boss of Final Fantasy 4, the gimmick is don't attack when the mist dragon's missed. You have to wait there in real time for that to happen. So Final Fantasy 7 uses that exact same gimmick for the exact same first boss.
Don't attack while its tail is up.
Yeah, the exact same thing. It's sort of to encourage you to actively pay attention as if it was an action game. You can't just sit there and hit attack all the time. They gotta actively pay attention. So sure, they've been building on it, but to me, once you've moved, they've now dropped that in favor of just changing genres in the name of like trying to make the series more popular again to
Yes.
to like more people.
Yes.
Because the whole argument there is more people like action games than turn-based games. That's kind of where the argument kind of starts. Is
Yes.
why has Final Fantasy chosen to go this route? Well, it's a AAA game made by $1 billion company. They're trying to make money, trying to sell as many copies as possible. More people in the global sense, and that's an important piece as well. In the global sense,
Yes.
like real-time games more than turn-based games. That's where the argument kind of starts.
Yes.
And
It's
I
the truth.
challenge that.
It's the truth, isn't it? No, you challenge it?
Yeah, I do challenge it sometimes. While I do think that historically, when you look at the grand scheme of things, this is probably true as you move through time. You have like Call of Duty, and then you have like God of War, and you have these big mega franchises that popped up on like the PS2 and PS3 that started to make like lots of money. Started to sell like tens and 20s of millions of copies.
Yeah.
But but at the same time, my challenge would be that on the other end, you do have games like Final Fantasy 7 and 9 and 10 that sell like over like 10 million copies.
Yeah.
You have like Baldur's Gate 3 from even just last year, that sold lots of copies and was super fucking popular. It's everywhere. Every motherfucker was playing that game.
There was a time when Final Fantasy was on top and was the most the most looked forward to thing on everyone's calendar to come out. And that was when it was turn-based, though.
Yeah, and that's kind of where my point kind of also goes to. It kind of feels like as Final Fantasy loses those turn-based elements, it's also losing relevancy. And as you move now into 2024, I mean, the JRPG everyone's talking about, is not even the Square Enix made one, and that's kind of the surprising part. We look like the modern era, what are the JRPGs people are talking about, in a good light these days. It's not Final Fantasy 15 or 16, really. It's like Persona 5, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, Metaphor, Xenoblade. These are the kind of games that have kind of popped up. And sure, not all the ones I just mentioned are turn-based. I'm pretty sure they all are except for Xenoblade. But when you look at Xenoblade started as this ridiculous hybrid action MMO turn-based-ish system, and it's basically just the same in the subsequent 3 games. So,
AKA a fucking mess.
Yeah, kind of a mess for me personally. But my point is that Final Fantasy has chosen to attempt to discard its previous fan base to try to, gain a bigger, newer one. And it's mostly
worked.
It's kind of worked. I mean,
to the detriment of the series.
Yeah, I mean, the modern games don't sell quite as well as they used to, quite as well as like the PS2 and PS1 games sell, as far as I know. I think Final Fantasy 15 in the end ended up selling quite a bit, but that game was hype overload. That game had forever.
A lot of marketing. That game had
a movie.
I think I was just about to say every possible type of media available they brought to bear.
Yeah, so it was ridiculous. But aside from that, I mean, the series simply isn't the juggernaut of sales it once was.
Sometimes I worry about Square Enix. Sometimes I look at them and they look like they look like they're doing the Sega thing to me.
Yeah,
like
sometimes
the Sega dance, where it's just like, man, like what? I don't know. It's always been very confusing for me personally to try to kind of figure out what the angle is with Final Fantasy ever since 13. Because 13 was fucking a disaster, a mess. It was horrible. I hated that game. I've always hated that game. I hated that game when it came out, even when other people tried to convince me that it was amazing. And ever since then, it's just been so hard to get back on that horse because it's like,
well, I think
for 2 reasons. First of all, because you play these games and it's like, well, it's not Final Fantasy anymore.
Yeah.
But more importantly than that, you play these games and it's like, I don't want to keep playing these games. This game's not good.
Yeah, I think a part of it is always that when it comes to 13, it was also that kind of that moment where game development started to change a bit, and we started to have longer waits between games.
Yeah,
I think
HD gaming.
I think it's a big issue for a franchise like Final Fantasy, where you wait like 8 years for goddamn Final Fantasy 13, you finally get to play it, and
it's ass.
Yeah, when it's a dud, it's like, okay. But the problem is that you're not going to be playing Final Fantasy 14 next year or like the year after. No, you got to wait.
You got to wait
5 years.
All you got is Final Fantasy 13.
Yep.
To suck on.
For nearly 5 years. And then they make Final Fantasy 14. What's that?
A fucking MMO.
A fucking MMO.
I don't really play MMOs.
A not good MMO, in fact.
Yeah, it was dog shit.
Yeah.
When it came out. When it came out.
So, yeah, when it came out. Yeah. Don't start in the comments with the goddamn Yoshi P shield. I have enough of you guys in game. I don't need to deal with you people other than that. But I digress. Yeah. So then that game's bad. You got to wait another 6 years for 15 to come out. That's a long time.
Right.
It was a long time going from 12, which was, kind of shaky at best in terms of the franchise reception.
I'll stand by 12. 12 is a good game.
Yeah, I'll stand by 12. But
12 is like the last time where it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, they were trying to do something a little different here and it didn't quite pan out. But like I'll stand by this, Yeah.
But it's just been a long time since you've really been able to get behind the fucking franchise. That's a big issue when we're waiting this long between games to game.
So how does that tie into Metaphor, your topic of the day?
Yeah, so the big reason I bring up Final Fantasy and Square Enix is because there's always this topic about like, I don't know, how like turn-based games don't really attract newer audiences and all this
the
kind of
numbers
jargon.
aren't there.
Yeah, it just isn't there. Like they don't care or whatever. But like, I've been playing Metaphor from Atlas, and it mostly just it plays. It's very similar to like an old Final Fantasy. You have a pretty standard job system in the game. A pretty simple elemental system from the Persona games with like the I think they call it like the press turn system in those games. Where you get like an extra turn when you hit like an enemy's weakness or whatever, but like goes both ways. So like it's a pretty solid elemental weakness system, pretty standard job system. Nothing too crazy. This is a game that could have existed on the fucking Super Nintendo. Other than the presentation, it really could have. There's nothing here that is groundbreaking stuff exactly. I mean,
I liked a lot of games on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah. So it's just very surprising to see like this rhetoric about, oh, this or that doesn't work. It's like, I don't know, man. I'm just not convinced all the time that he'll say these. Same with like other genres I enjoy, but with JRPGs. every single time a Final Fantasy game comes out, we've had this same conversation. And it's just like, now Metaphor is out. It's a standard fantasy universe with like a little bit of steampunky, like futuristic stuff in there, just like the old Final Fantasies. You have a very standard turn-based system, just like the old Final Fantasies. A couple of gimmicks, just like the old Final Fantasy games have. The plot feels just along with them pretty much as well. Like non-humanoid playable characters too. Like, it has a whole fucking thing. It has everything I want like a Final Fantasy game. It's just not called Final Fantasy. It's just interesting to kind of see, because a lot of people putting this game up as a maybe game of the year contender or whatever.
Wow, really?
Yeah, a lot of people are talking quite highly of it right now. And just next to it is what other game came out this year, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Not a turn-based RPG, exactly. So it's just kind of interesting to kind of look at those two games next to each other. I'm very curious. It'd be funny to see. It'd be very funny if Metaphor ends up winning either Best RPG or God forbid for Square Enix who wins Game of the Year over Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
I mean, what else? I mean, what came out this year? The year of our Lord 2024. What do we have come out?
So this is why the JRPGs have a chance of winning this year. Ain't shit come out that this year really, other than like a bunch of JRPGs. Because like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth came out, Metaphor came out, a bunch of duds came out like Concord and such.
New Call of Duty.
Yeah, New Call of Duty came out. Like ain't nothing. Like, no Last of Us Part 3. No From Software game.
Is there going to be a Last of Us Part 3?
Probably.
Oh wow.
Might as well keep that gravy train going for as long as it goes.
Oh yeah.
So this is the year that maybe a JRPG might actually win Game of the Year, perhaps. But a lot of people are talking about those two games. That's just kind of funny that we see, again, like even in the fucking Final Fantasy VII remake, it's still not a turn-based game. Even when you guys are remaking games, they can't fucking do it. So it'd just be very funny. It'd be a good moment to see, the turn-based gods once again kind of show up and kind of clean slate. Because last year, good old Final Fantasy 16 had a rough time at the Game Awards show last year as well.
Did it?
Yeah, just getting sweet, getting nominated for a lot, but like winning, I don't think anything in the end. But obviously Baldur's Gate 3, came out of nowhere and just delivered hell.
Baldur's Gate 3, baby.
Which is the other thing I wanted to kind of tie into next is people like to talk about dead genres, or this genre doesn't work anymore, or that genre doesn't work anymore.
CRPGs, baby.
Yeah, the fucking CRPG. Like, come on.
Secretly never really went away.
Like, please, people. Like Baldur's Gate 3 plays like doo-doo butter. Why? Because it's a CRPG, and they all kind of play like doo-doo butter.
Hey, fuck you.
I
resent that statement.
You don't play them because they play good, or because like they're like fun. You play them because you get to like fucking... You can make a self-insert. You can fuck a like effeminate vampire elf in Baldur's Gate 3. That's why you play them. Okay, that's why we play these games.
Okay, but theoretically, couldn't you do that and have the game not play like doo-doo butter?
Maybe, but maybe. But my point is that like, and we play those games for the choices. Not every game lets you self-insert and fucking have sex with a fucking effeminate vampire elf dude. All right. Not every game lets you even do that kind of shit. But you have a billion other choices, not every game lets you do that kind of shit. But CRPGs let you do that kind of shit, I
love me some CRPGs.
So like it's just one of those things where like the reason these genres existed is because they had an audience. And the audience of people is still out there. They haven't gone anywhere. Same for fighting games. Until this recent generation of fighting games came out, people are like, oh, the genre's too stuck in the arcades. I can't evolve. I can't move forward with like the modern audiences. And then Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 come through selling millions of copies. It's that same conversation.
Spoken like a true fighting game sympathetic.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, my boy here is absolutely still livid that fighting games are no longer just like littered in arcades everywhere, and we can't just like go down to the arcade and scrap up in Street Fighter.
Kind of. I mean, at the same time, it's almost better these days. Instead of going to my local arcade, waiting in line to play on a busted up joystick and a goddamn button that doesn't work. My crouching light kick that just doesn't fucking work. So I can go to my house and rage in the comfort of my own home while beating up people online.
They do be raging though.
But it's that same kind of conversation about about this whole idea of genres like no longer working and no longer being relevant. I just think it's total hogwash sometimes because when you look at
hogwash, ooh.
yeah, because when you look at fucking metaphor, I mean, like, what is it really? Like
Have to censor that.
like again, like this is a game that could have existed like so long ago, and people are fucking glazing this game up like it's coming of RPG heaven. Even the other day on Reddit, I saw a post that says that Persona 5 is a genre-defining game. I'm like, what? How is Persona 5 the 5th game in the Persona series, which is a subset of Shin Megami Tensei that came out in like 91? How the fuck is Persona 5 a genre-defining game? Because you want to fuck the teacher? No, because you can fuck the teacher. That's why. That's why. Like, that's why, Because Persona 5 is made for its audience, and the audience wants to self-insert into a nerdy-ish Japanese dude who could fuck his teacher, and the game lets it happen and says it's okay.
I just want to make sure I'm getting this straight. You're saying basically that games aren't good because of their gameplay or mechanics. Really, they're good because of the deranged shit they let you do.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, a little bit. I mean, even when you look way back in the day at like the Ultimate games, you could kill like the creator of the game who was like a self-insert into his own game. Like, people love that kind of shit. People love wacky, deranged shit, all the time. But my main point is that, like, it's more about your audience, actually finding an audience and actually appealing to them, actually. CRPGs appeal to a certain kind of person for a certain kind of reason. They want to self-insert and have this wacky, fun adventure with, like, a bunch of weird companions. And, like, on the same side, fighting games appeal to, like, the super sweaty people who want to be in the lab and practice and, and work towards a bunch of wins,
Before they added auto combos.
Yeah, well, and even after that, but my point is that, like,
sorry, I was just trying to rile you up.
No, yeah, my point is that, like, these people haven't gone anywhere, like these people who like these things didn't just disappear overnight or anything,
Yeah, actually, we're older and have more disposable income now.
Yeah, exactly. So because, like, no one, if you had told people that last year, like when fucking Armored Core 6 came out and Final Fantasy 16 came out and all these games came out last year, if you could have told them a fucking CRPG would just sweep everything. Nah, dude, you're tweaking, bruh. You're tweaking. You're tweaking the fuck out if you think that would be a reality.
Man, should I play Baldur's Gate 3?
Probably. Probably. Yeah, probably. So it's just one of those, and like me, like, for example, I liked RTS games back in the day. StarCraft, a little Warcraft every now and again. That's a genre that's also, dead because it's unviable with the modern audience. It's too sweaty. It's too ridiculous. It's too whatever. And you know what? I think it's bullshit. I think if the right game came out, the right kind of RTS came out with, like, the right kind of features and really figured out the issues with the old style of games and why they went away, I think they get another winner on their hands for sure. Because it's kind of what Baldur's Gate 3 did. Is that what are the issues with the genre? What makes them unappealing to people? And can we kind of scrub some of that without losing the identity?
Yeah. Can we soften up the grind? Can we make it a little bit more intuitive to play?
Yep.
And then the things that people do like about it, can we take those things and crank them up to 11?
Yep. So which kind of ties back into where I want to talk about Metaphor. What Metaphor kind of did was that it kind of took the things you like about JRPGs, like the over the topness and the wackiness, and it kind of just dialed up to, like, fucking a million, where, like, simple crit animations have, like, ridiculous animations to them. The UI looks absurd, absolutely fucking absurd. The music is very striking, and very in your face, So it's these are the things that genre is always good at. This is why Final Fantasy got, why did Final Fantasy get popular, Square Enix? It's because it looked nice. Against Dragon Quest, there's a nicer, slicker, better playing version of Dragon Quest. Okay, when you look at Dragon Quest 1 versus Final Fantasy 1, even Dragon Quest, I think, because Final Fantasy 1 came out in 1889, I think. By that point, Dragon Quest 1, 2, and I think 3 were already out by that point. And Final Fantasy 1 plays better than all three of those fucking games on the NES,
Saying that Final Fantasy 1 plays better than anything is remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's part of the appeal is that, at the nice looking battle screen, nicer animations. It was a sleek game. more music tracks, a more striking, cooler soundtrack too. That's the appeal, Square Enix. You guys should know. You only made 16 of these things.
Yeah.
Like you should know the appeal of them.
It was just Squaresoft back then.
Well,
If you want to split hairs, but.
But yeah, Squaresoft, you made 10 of them before you had to merge or whatever. So I mean, the DNA is there, and like Metaphor is, it's just taken from the same playbook. It's just taken from the same playbook. Like these dudes took Final Fantasy V's job system, took the social link system from their own games, and took the calendar system from their own games, and just put in the blender, hit puree. And the game has like a 95 on Metacritic. Bro, the trees in those games look like N64 trees. All right, the animations are like from Final Fantasy X era. Like the game kind of looks like Dookie, but people don't care.
I mean, I wouldn't care based off that description. I like the N64 graphics. I like those trees.
Yeah. That's why I want
Final Fantasy X didn't have that bad of animations.
Yeah. I'm not saying it was bad. It's just like, no, this game I'm paying $70 dues for in 2024.
Metaphor is $70.
Yeah. You can tell my man does not buy that many modern games.
Oh, it's Atlas. You said it's Atlas, right?
Yeah. It's over, man.
Yeah, man. That's
$69.99. Fucking bullshit is.
So what's the art style? Like, what does the game look like?
It looks. I mean, have you seen any of the?
No, I don't even know. Like, all that I know about Metaphor is what you have filled with my head with in conversation.
Gotcha. It's they usually go for like this kind of cel shaded anime look for the most part.
So similar to Persona.
Yeah, almost exactly. It looks almost exactly like Persona.
Okay.
Yeah, almost exactly like Persona.
Yeah, okay.
And, very, very, very like simple colors. Very bright, simple colors for the most part. Very thick black outlines.
Thick outlines.
Yeah. The whole look. How's the whole look going on? It's a clean look. It's a good look. But like the animations are they're breast status. There's lots of things that are very like old style. Obviously, which isn't an issue.
You gotta put your budget where it counts.
Yeah, and they clearly do. But my point is that it's just interesting that just a little bit of like UI flair, just a little bit of animation work on like the battle screen.
Every time you bring up the UI, man, like it'd be really nice to just fucking play a game with a fun like a UI that looks like anyone gave a shit when they designed it.
They gave a shit. They gave a shit. They had those dudes in the trenches for like the pits of Atlas headquarters, just for years, probably coming up with that UI because it's so striking.
UI design is like one of the things that really fucking bothers me in a lot of modern games.
Oh yeah,
UI design is one of the things I bitched about most in our Monster Hunter Wilds discussion.
Yeah.
UI is one of the things I hate most about the topic I'm going to talk about later today. Like I just fucking hate it when you press pause or an information blurb comes up or literally anything happens in game and you have to read a bunch of shit or you have to cycle through a bunch of menus or whatever and it's just like an opaque square with some like stock text on it. Yep. like fucking Times New Roman.
Yeah, fucking Times New.
Jesus fucking Christ, man. Like
fucking put in some effort.
You can't.
Guys.
Yeah, like you can't stylize any of this to make it look like it like gels with the game whatsoever.
No.
Like, come on, man.
Minimalist, fucking Google ass look on everything.
Like I really like diegetic menus.
Oh yeah.
Like Mario Odyssey. And you have the fucking brochures. I love that.
Yeah, that's the
press cool. Start. Character brings up a little brochure. Yeah, the brochure really is a travel guide for your fucking for like the resort type. Not the resort, but like the scenic place that you're visiting, the level.
Yeah.
And then the theme of the game is that you're traveling around to different levels and travel brochures. Like it's
good. It's good. It works really well.
That's perfect. That's an example of like they clearly thought about how they could make the menu design more engaging for the player so that the entire game is more immersive, even down to the menus. That's how you can tell like the people making the game cared. Yeah. Like they really gave a shit.
I think
not to say that if you don't do that you don't care. I'm just saying.
Well, I think if you
do that, it shows that you care.
No, I would challenge that. If you don't do that, I don't think you care. I just don't think you care that much.
There's a really old quote by one of the Brits from Rareware before they were bought out.
Yep.
Before the dark times.
Before the dark times, yeah.
And I believe he says something along the lines of, you can tell pretty much instantly in every game if the developer really cared or not. It's like, just take your character and walk him up against a wall. Like, what happens when you hit the wall? Like, when you just hold your control stick forward and just force your character to just run into the wall, what happens?
Yeah.
Do the animations just stop? Do the animations just continue and they just continue in the run animation, or do they like interact with the wall like an actual character would, and like, you know, brush up against it, or like, you know, do whatever. That was something that like a lot of games had back in the day, even though you really wouldn't use that mechanic. Super Mario 64 is a perfect example or not a perfect example, but an example I can think of right away where you do use that mechanic on several occasions.
Yeah,
but not very often. That's kind of what he's referring to, is like, when you run into a wall, does your character like, you know,
interact with it?
Does your character notice? Like, do they actually like touch the wall? You know, do they scoot up against it, or are they just like stuck in a perpetual run animation? That's one of those things where it's like, that's how you can tell if, you know, developer cared or not. You know, whether they cared and they were like invested in what they were doing, or they were just, you know, trying to get the code out on time.
Yeah. There's lots of little hints to always know, but it's just kind of interesting. Just always like the very little things I feel like some of these old genres could do to really, you know, give some a bit more just flair to them, you know. Like, for example, to go back to RTS, you kind of made a joke earlier about, you know, what you mean, just, you know, give them some kind of fuckable fucking command on like an RTS or something. Yeah, maybe, you know, that's what the audience create. I'm just saying, like, you know, is that what it would take, you know?
Is that what it would take?
You know, I just wonder, you know, like, is that really the change of the RTS genre needs to become relevant, to insert some weird fucking dating system into them? You know, like, maybe.
I would argue it's not,
like, you know,
because you know, there's all kinds of different flavors of like gooner fucking hentai games, and you know, I don't think that's really what, you know, if you had a bunch of like fan service in your RTS, I don't think that would really help.
Yeah, I mean, I was supposed to just make a joke. You know what I mean.
But having a strong story,
maybe that could
I think is what really sells, or like can help. Usually it's just one game and then a bunch of people trying to get in on the bandwagon. But for any genre that is like a mainstay now, or is like really, really popular, I feel like the ascent to popularity usually lies within one or a handful of games or one franchise that really fleshed out like a really strong story that pulled people into it, you know?
Yeah, I also feel like you have a good point earlier about like auto combos in fighting games. I think as much of an issue that they cause sometimes to the game design, on the other end, they've kind of fixed the issue with fighting games, which is that kind of barrier.
People can't get into them.
Yeah, kind of, and that very initial barrier to entry. How do I even move my character and like do something?
Like
anything.
when you see a bunch of dudes at a party, or like some people at a party fucking throwing down on Street Fighter, like, and you're like, oh shit, can I play? Like, you can actually play, and like, you know, it's not just like a joke.
Yeah, exactly.
A complete fucking joke where you can't even like land. You can't even touch your opponent.
When your boys are like you know, when your boys into a game, and you're like, oh, can I try playing with you? At least you can like do something. You know, if you manage to hit him, you can like do something at least. You know, it's not just it's way easier to like start from ground zero now. And sure, like you can argue like what's done to the genre overall, if it's good or bad or whatever, but you can't really argue that it wasn't successful what it was trying to do. They're trying to
onboard new players.
Yeah, because some of them have done it smart, some have done it in a dumb way. Like I still think Street Fighter 6 has the best implementation of the system. You've totally like made a different control scheme. It's like its own rules and everything. You know, it's a totally different way to play the game entirely. That's not necessarily better or worse, really. It's just a different way to play the game, really. And you can optimize like that part of like your gameplay, you know. And so I think it's the best way to do it, even though I think it's sloppy at the same time, because they've removed the likelihood of people graduating from modern controls in Street Fighter 6, unless they really want to make the jump into like very high level play. But I'm guessing modern control users probably aren't looking to do that. Well, so probably never going to graduate, which means they're never going to get into like another fighting game without modern controls.
Maybe this is why some people are upset as well. But they've just removed the reason to practice from, you know, most people, just most of the player base.
Yeah,
unless you're literally gunning to make it your full-time fucking thing that you do nonstop is to, like you're gonna be like your Daigo, like basically like you want to become Justin Wong, like unless you're that level of commitment, then there's no point in like learning.
Yeah,
You just use
exactly.
the auto combos.
Yeah, and like, which I think Street Fighter Six is in a pretty smart way where they're less automatic than other systems. Some things, yeah, but they made other things easier as well, and they've kind of changed a lot of the rules around it, which I think is a good implementation. But I think they've created a situation where definitely like you can't really. It'd be impossible to go from Street Fighter Six modern controls to like another game because it plays very unique, for itself. In fact, the only game I can think that plays similarly would be like, I guess like Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, kind of similar system, and then like the League of Legends fighting game is a similar system as well. Probably
The
those
League of
two.
Legends fighting game.
Yeah, the 2XKO, I guess is its actual name, but those two have a very similar ish system where they've replaced doing special inputs with like a special button plus the directional buttons like little Smash Bros. So I think you could transfer to those two decently easy, but anything else in the genre, not really. But again, I digress. But Street Fighter Six made all those changes, and their reward is they have like a consistent 10K people playing on Steam every day Street Fighter Six, which is way higher than any fucking fighting game fucking ever. And the game came out like a year ago, and it's still 10K people every day, which is fucking crazy for a fighting game. So it's
Too
like,
bad Square Enix couldn't have seen that kind of success.
yeah. So when you look back at JRPGs and this whole idea of like for Final Fantasy at least of like, oh, do the kids like turn-based games? It's like that's not why people play games all the time. Like the reason why like Final Fantasy 13 even isn't that good isn't even like the gameplay necessarily. Like even if you gave Final Fantasy 13 a standard turn-based system, it'll still be pretty bad.
No, that game would be really fucking bad still. So, see,
Yeah, it's still
the problem with
So like that's not really the issue with some of those Final Fantasy games necessarily. So I find it weird they think that that's the solution is we have to keep on changing the gameplay. That's the problem here. Is that people don't like whatever gameplay system we implemented. If you ask anyone what they think of 16, what they're going to tell you is not that the gameplay was poor. What they're going to tell you is that the fucking pacing of the story sucks balls. I haven't played 16 yet. I'm just going off of what I've heard online with all this. But for what I understand, people say that the story and narrative is actually pretty decent in 16. It's just paced and delivered like dog shit.
Really?
Yeah, and falls apart.
I can't believe I haven't seen any promotion for this game.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the other problem is that it's kind of come and go. No one talks about it. No one talking about these new Final Fantasy games. You even seen fucking Clive's chiseled ass jawline yet?
People talk about Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah. People talk, I mean, yeah. Fair enough, but yeah, it's like no shit. But that's kind of my point. My whole point of discussion is that like fucking Final Fantasy fell off favor so hard compared to these other fucking JRPGs that like you haven't even seen the main character and like his chiseled ass jawline, like that's how far they've fallen out of favor. There's a point where like you as a fan of Final Fantasy, you really know what he looks like. The guy even fucking looks like his name, nothing. That's crazy
I don't know
work.
anything about Final Fantasy 16.
That is crazy
I
work.
stopped giving a shit when 15 was not a return to form from 13.
Yeah, that's crazy work. Yeah, but like 16 is like a medieval-ish and steampunky-ish world.
I don't believe any of this.
Yeah. Like Christ, yeah.
Like I feel like I feel like I have seen material for 16, but I feel like it all looked just like Final Fantasy 15. Is that not the case?
No, that's not the case. In terms of like setting, it's pretty much the opposite. They ride on chocobos still. There's castles and airships and all the usual stuff you expect. Ancient civilizations and shit. Main character's like he's like the Duke's son.
Oh wow, it almost sounds like Final Fantasy.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it's very, yeah. In terms of narrative, and I played like the demo. So I played like the first 3-ish hours of Final Fantasy 16. That's very, in terms of setting and like tone, it's very much more in line with anything I've seen for a long time out of the franchise for sure.
That's good.
And anything I've heard about how the plot progresses is unfortunately very Final Fantasy as well. AK loses, the plot loses its fucking mind to halfway through the game, and then 3/4 of the way through the game, you're like, I don't even know what's going on now.
Yeah, that sounds like that sounds. I mean, you're actually kind of selling me on this.
Yeah, it just sounds like it's not super well paced, it seems like, which doesn't surprise me because I play Final Fantasy 14, the MMO, and that game is also very badly paced. It's made by a similar team.
I mean, shit, man, Final Fantasy 7's badly paced.
Yeah.
Give me a pace. I shouldn't. It's not badly paced, but it does have.
It's a little weirdly paced.
It's not.
Well, I think one thing that makes Final Fantasy 7 a little weirdly paced
its pacing isn't bad, but its timing is off on some things.
It's just weird because it's a bit of a mystery. Final Fantasy 7 plays out like
Final Fantasy 7 is a mystery. It's a mystery story from the ground up. It's a mystery.
So it plays out like a little. So pacing is a little weird because of that. I feel like. Because you're kind of waiting for the reveal.
Yeah,
you're kind of waiting for the reveal. And you as a player, you don't really know it's a mystery until it kind of reveals itself.
Well, that's what's so cool about it, though. Is like you get to Nibelheim,
I believe that's pronounced.
Nibelheim. You get to Nibelheim, and it's like.
All this part over.
All of a sudden, everything is creepy as shit. All of a sudden, there's there's a dramatic tone shift. It's a complete fucking whiplash. Juxtaposition. Every word that you can use to put two things next to each other that differ.
It's a simile. It's a metaphor. It's a.
And it's just so wildly different. It really makes you pay attention. Yeah. And then it starts throwing all this shit in your face that makes you realize that there's a mystery that needs to be solved.
Exactly.
And you've been a part of it since the beginning. And it's like, oh, shit. And it's like, it's called, and you don't see this these days, thickening the plot.
Yeah.
It's Final Fantasy VII is a good game site.
I know. I'm aware of such things. I'm aware of such things for sure. But yeah, it's just kind of a bit of an interesting thing to kind of see. Like for me, last year Baldur's Gate 3 was like a big funny moment for me. When it just sweeps all these awards, everyone's fucking playing it, everyone's fucking talking about it. It's like, yeah, this fucking game is a goddamn CR. It's the genre that people say
by the book CRPG.
Yeah, it's so like it's just a top down isometric ish fucking CRPG. Like it barely plays any different than. I mean, it plays quite a bit different in some ways than the old games. But you played Baldur's Gate 1 or 2, yeah. It barely plays like that much different. Like it plays a little bit closer maybe to Dragon Age or something. Origins. Right?
I have not played the Dragon Age games.
Gotcha. But a bit more similar like that in a sense. But yeah, it's just a faster, sleeker, easier to navigate fucking CRPG. So it's like, all right, guys, so let's stop the cope over some of these genres, saying that they're not suited for modern audiences or whatever. These companies gotta just figure it out. There's a path to success that exists for these genres for sure, and we see it time and time again. And the cope over. Square Enix can cope all they want, but if they better just hope that Metaphor doesn't take Game of the Year over Final Fantasy VII, because that'd be fucking embarrassing. I don't want to see that. I don't even want to see that. I don't think anyone wants to see
Make Final Fantasy great again, man.
Yeah.
Things we don't want to see, man.
Yeah,
fucking
because it's these days it's kind of funny. It's just getting funnier every single time that this happens, and then the new Final Fantasy gets released. It's not turn based. Everyone's like, fucking, they're trying to sell bajillion copies and no one fucking likes them anymore. And then, meanwhile, Atlas is dropping, the hottest JRPG of the year on a fraction of the budget. It's just like, what is even happening? What is actually happening here? So I would just like to see, people kind of get real on some of that stuff. Especially for RTS. For me, RTS is a big one now. I want to see the fucking revival. I want to fucking see it, like for real.
It's time.
It's fucking time. And I'm not sure who's going to deliver it, in what form, but you have to go back and examine, why did people stop liking these games? Really examine it there. Same with JRPGs. Why did people stop, liking JRPGs back in the PS2 days? Because sleeker games started coming out.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad JRPGs.
Well, not just that, because we got games that could deliver a story and a narrative in a more sleeker, interesting way, like fucking Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank.
We saw games with we saw games with good combat also could deliver a good story.
Yeah, in a way more interesting way. It's having fucking text boxes for 9% of the fucking game. You have these well animated sequences between like Jack and Daxter, you know, playing off each other. You know, GTA, this whole cinematic like movie like feel to them. You know, like JRPGs like really struggle to kind of
keep up,
kind of get there. You know, kind of keep up there. So what they did is that they kind of focus on their own audience. You know, JRPG people also like VNs. You know, like visual novels, and the Persona games are kind of VN-like in a sense, but there's a lot of reading, a lot more like social building with like your companions and shit like that. You know, they kind of focus on their audience and like what the people who like the genre are really there for. You want to talk to your fucking homies. You know, you want fucking. You know, you want to do some, I get fucking noodles with fucking Tifa or something. You know, that's what you want to do in these fucking games.
Oh god, Final Fantasy 7 Persona.
Yeah. You want to hang out with your party members, you know, and fucking chill and talk and, you know, do some dungeons.
That'd be kind of
you
cool.
Know? Yeah, it's cool, you know, and that's a vibe that all the Atlas games have. That you fucking you can get to chill with your party members, powwow about their fucking character arc or whatever, like. You know, it's definitely good stuff. You know, it's definitely good stuff, and you know, I don't think that it's out of the realm of doing for any other genre, let alone Square Enix and Final Fantasy, of really thinking about like why did people fall out of love with like this genre or whatever. Like same like first person like fucking arena style first person shooters are finally coming back with like Doom and like Wolfenstein, and the Russian one from last Atomic Heart, like these are finally kind of coming back because they finally asked themselves, why did people fall out of love with like these games? And one reason that they never really did, we just kind of like stopped making them. but the other reason is because like you know they were a little short sometimes and they're a little samey sometimes.
You know, other fads just kind of took hold.
Yeah, and
cinematic. You know, Halo really came along and kind of, you know, when Halo got uncontrollably big, I feel like there was a lot of people in game development that were kind of like, okay, well, this is what shooters need to be now.
Yep, exactly. And there's a lot of that goes on in the industry as well that causes these type of issues that I'm talking about here. People saying that, oh, this doesn't work anymore. You know, it's really sometimes more of an issue of like, well, you know, no, you guys just kind of like stop making them even though they're still successful, you know, because you want to be more successful, trying to chase the, you know, even more profit, you know, and endlessly chasing more and more profit. But what happens sometimes is you just lose the profit that you fucking had in the first place, you know, fucking all of Final Fantasy, you know. So it's I get why they try it sometimes, but at the end of the day, you know, I think what we see these days in gaming, since gaming is so much bigger these days, is genres and franchises that appeal to their audience tend to be super successful these days, crazy successful. You know, where they really dial in what the fuck their audience is truly looking for. Yes. You know, like those games usually like really pop the fuck off. You know, where there's like for example the new Monster Hunter games, you know, really dialed in on the world and like the grind and like having like an end game and you know all that kind of stuff. Because the older Monster Hunter games never really fucked with like an end game that much. You know, but like these new ones really dialed on like the grind and like the world. You know, one the setting. To the grind, you know, they really dialed on like those two aspects and really pumped them up, you know, in World and Rise, and those games are crazy fucking successful. You know, Baldur's Gate 3 really dialed up like the fucking choices and the fucking dating shit. You know?
Like every Metroidvania since Shovel Knight, you know, has really paid attention to like the atmosphere, the layout, the mechanics, how the game handles, you know.
Yeah, they're
making sure everything's tight.
Yeah, tight. Yeah. Modern Metroidvanias are very mechanically tight these days. They really focus in on getting it like really dialed in just right.
That's part of what drives those games to be really enjoyable to play. Is like they understand like there's not the primary actions in this game is like the gameplay in those games. Everything else is very important, the atmosphere, the story, things like that, the characters, all that, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're really spending all your time in a Metroidvania rolling around, playing the game.
Yeah. And then when you look at like Metroid Dread that came out.
And they're not usually short.
Yeah, they're usually not that short. But even when you look at like Metroid Dread, for example,
which was pretty short.
the changes to Metroid Dread are mostly mechanical. They like
Yes.
tightened up a lot, like the jumping and the movement.
I mean,
a lot of it's
yeah.
a lot of it's way tighter than like any of the older ones. To be
I
honest,
guess it doesn't feel great.
I mean, when's the last time you played Super Metroid?
Hey man, I like Super Metroid.
Yeah, I mean, you go back and jump.
I don't have to replay it to look at its warts and stuff. I like that game.
I'm just saying, like, Super Metroid's a great game, but it's very floaty and it's not very precise. And then same for Fusion and Zero Mission as well. And Dread's just a lot tighter than it controls more like an indie Metroidvania. It's very tight and mechanical, versus the older games are a lot looser, I would say, mechanically. It definitely is. If you don't believe me, I dare you to boot up Super Metroid and jump one time. It'll only take one jump, dog.
Can I boot up Metroid Fusion?
Even if you could do Fusion too and jump one time.
I like Fusion.
And you'll instantly see the difference. It doesn't take very long. That's like the first thing I noticed when I started playing Dread is this controls like an indie Metroidvania. This does not control like a Metroid game. This controls like an indie Metroidvania for sure. And by the time you get to the end, you are playing an indie Metroidvania for sure. There ain't no goddamn Metroid game that lets you air dash. Except for one. Little only fucking triple air dash.
Oh yeah, it actually got good at the end. I remember that now.
Yeah. Like that fucking 2/3 of the way when they give you like the fucking triple air dash, I was like, yeah, this is some shit you get in like Hollow Knight. Like this is not shit you get in a Metroid game ever. Because and why is that? Because they realize, what do people like about this genre? They like the tightness and the slick movement. They want this cool movement option. They want to show off their cool mechanical skills. They might be precise. That's what people like about Metroidvanias, even though the old Metroid games didn't even have some of these aspects necessarily. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. It's not like action RPGs and this whole like Souls-like thing of like an aspect of action RPGs that people like these days is the challenge. Even though back in the day, not every action RPG was fucking hard. But these days, it kind of have to be, because there's an element these days of people like the challenge that comes with like these action RPGs.
Yes.
You want to get in there, they want to grind a little bit, and really hit their wall against those fucking bosses for a bit there. It's an element that people definitely are looking towards, in the genres these days.
Thanks, Dark Souls.
Yeah, thanks From Software, where not everything's a Souls like. I think I'm just gonna probably wrap it back around the metaphor one more time.
Do it.
Kind of read it, yeah.
So how does Metroid Dread being tight AF like a modern Metroidvania game? How does that tie back into metaphor and JRPGs?
Yeah. So yeah. So my overall point is I think Square Enix could do a lot of good to kind of look at what kind of metaphor has been able to achieve with so much less going for it. A less reputable name, way less budget, way less time. Way less everything. They make a much more appealing game. Because like I'm like the Final Fantasy guy. I'm like I played the demo of 16 and Metaphor, and I chose to scoop up fucking Metaphor for $70 instead of scooping up Final Fantasy 16 plus the DLC for $50.
Wow.
So that that says enough. That says enough just on its own.
Yeah.
Of what's like appealing. Like Metaphor is a more appealing game because I want to play a fucking turn-based RPG right now. I want to fucking play Devil May Cry 6. Maybe later I want to, but right now I want to play a turn-based RPG. And I'm sick of hearing this shit because I'm also sick of hearing is like, oh my god, Final Fantasy was different all the time back in the day. Yeah, but it was never an action game, which existed which existed back then,
Right.
So like it's not like they couldn't have.
Even blends, you even got like Secret of Mana and shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, by the time you get there, it's like it's like they could have if they wanted to, but they didn't.
They didn't.
Yeah.
So they had their own identity that they were that they stuck to.
They just about damn near made the genre. Dragon Quest, like fuck being a part of the genre. Like they damn near made JRPGs, and they abandoned it for Devil May Cry, for Clive May Cry,
You could see where they were headed in that, by that time. So
yeah. True. I'm just saying it would be I think they could do a lot of good by just looking back and examining what's been actually going wrong with the games, first off, and and also trying to get some fucking goodwill back. Because even if they want to do all this nonsense, like they gotta get some goodwill back in the franchise. Like, stop fucking around. Just make a 4 in a row game, okay, with a job system. Just stop fucking around. I mean, shit, man. I mean, yeah, that's like my big point. Stop fucking around. Like, just build some goodwill back, then start doing some dumb shit again. Maybe 17 can just be a normal game. That's good. And then 18 you can fuck about again. Make some kind of quasi fucking turn-based action hybrid system with some bullshit like 13. But hell, man, get some people on your side again first, man. Get some people batting in your corner for a change for once, man. It's just been so long now, and it's just so funny seeing all these, because it was kind of funny when like Persona 3 and 4 were like fucking upstaging Square Enix, but now it's funny because Metaphor is their shit. That's their shit. That's a fantasy-ish JRPG with some slight allegories to like the real world, with a fucking up your ass plot, fucking it's just the same shit. It's the shit that they did.
You're just mad because you've been waiting for this game since Final Fantasy 13 came out over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it finally came. It's finally come back to us. We finally have Final Fantasy again, but it's not Final Fantasy.
It's just not called Final Fantasy. I like literally I was playing the game and I was just like, bro, why the fuck hasn't Square Enix made this game yet? How'd they not make this game?
I've been waiting since I was in junior high school.
Yeah, for them to make this game.
For them to just make a regular Final Fantasy again.
Because it does like the thing where like sometimes you get like the controllable camera, sometimes you have like the what's it called, like the pre-made angles, the fucking
Are you talking about like Resident Evil style?
Yeah, Resident Evil. What's that called again? That camera.
Like isometric angles.
No, when you don't control the camera.
Tank controls.
No,
what are you talking about, dude? I don't know.
When you control the camera, when the
fixed
fucking,
camera.
Yeah, fixed camera angles. Yeah, fixed camera angles. Like some scenes are controllable camera, some are fixed camera angles, and it depends on like where you are, like move smoothly between them. Like, fucking Final Fantasy was doing this. Like 8 and 9, and 7, 8, 9, like started doing this. Like 10 perfected doing it pretty much. It's like, fuck, man.
I actually feel like 10 had a lot less dynamic like scene staging.
Yeah, because it's more
camera work.
There's more like the controllable camera sections in 10 for sure.
I guess I don't remember being able to control a camera ever in that game. I remember moving a little bit, but
I remember you being able to. But yeah, it's been a long time though. It's been a very long time though. But yeah, I digress. It's that very same style. Even down to the camera is a very similar style. That's what I'm saying. Even the fucking camera is just like, fuck, man. What Square Enix? Why? Like this is such an appealing style of game. Like turn-based job system. Like even down to like the non-human, playable characters, even shit like that. It's so appealing. It's so Japanesey. It's so fun. It has everything you're looking for in a Japanese RPG. Like you play that game, you're like, yeah, I'm playing a fucking Japanese ass JRPG. This is what I want. And it's just like, you hear this cope all the time over like this kind of game just not being relevant anymore. I'm just like, are you guys high? Like they just made the 5th Persona game, the 5th one, number 5. Okay, like what are you talking about? Like what do you mean? Like the genre is not relevant anymore. Even look at like another great example would be like Fire Emblem, like like whole like tactical RPG games being a thing of the past.
Oh yeah,
you're wrong.
That rolls into your point from earlier as well. You literally just need to add a dating sim.
Yeah, maybe all it needs is fuckable anime characters. I mean, that's all you ever really need to sell a goddamn game. Gotcha games do it. Those niggas selling JPEGs somehow, and there's someone making more
AI produced JPEGs no less now.
Yeah, AI generated JPEGs and making millions of dollars somehow. I'm motherfuckers casinoing after them. You ain't getting them sometimes. They're making money in pursuit of getting them. That's crazy work.
Imagine.
And so what I'm saying is someone make an RTS game with fuckable anime women. I guess is what I'm saying. Let's make this genre great again.
I have a fun piece of trivia for you. Did you know that the capsule technology that Japan uses for gacha machines, those vending machines actually came from America? We were the ones that invented like 2-part plastic capsule technology and stuffing them in vending machines so that kids could pay pocket change for them and shit.
Of course we did.
Japan, we brought that shit to Japan. We brought that technology to Japan in the 70s, bro. In the 60s and 70s, and Japan was like, oh shit, you can fucking put little trinkets inside these little trinkets and put that inside of a machine and charge pocket change for it? We're gonna fucking industrialize this shit. We're gonna fucking base our whole nation's economy off this shit.
Yeah, God did they.
So I thought that was really interesting. Like,
yeah, that's good.
Vending machines are a really iconic Japanese like cultural thing now. And I don't know about vending machines carte blanche, but at least like gachas.
Yeah, at least
gacha style.
But I guess the last thing I'll end on as well. You know, as we're trying to wrap this up a bit. You know, you have some genres as well that you know, that were popular back in the day that failed to kind of carry on. You know, like
most of the ones that I liked actually have been revived now.
Yeah,
I was a big fan of point and clicks.
Yeah,
point and clicks are, you know, I mean, we're okay, but they're not like plentiful, but we have them.
But yeah, but my point is that, you know, sure, y'all get in the scraps or whatever, but where's the big AAA point and clicks back in the day? I mean, y'all used to. I mean, point and click.
Yeah, where's it? Yeah. I mean, those are dead. Those really are dead.
Nah, see,
because point and clicks relied a lot on hand animated artwork.
I mean,
I don't see that coming back in a AAA. Like, there's no way, man.
My whole company's but that's all cope. It's always possible, you know. It's always possible. But it's about examining why did the point and click end up dying off in the first place. I'm trying to fix those game design issues.
They were too hard to play. You're right. No, you're right, because I played Primordia, the best point and click game ever, and that game is the best point and click game ever because it uses regular logic, and you can actually use logic to solve the puzzles. Yeah. You're right. I'll have to write down Primordia is another game that I want to spotlight to talk about.
Yeah, so like, yeah, so for if anyone's looking to sponsor us, who have made Primordia, you know, you're
Wormwood Studios is a student production branch.
Well, if you have some money after your ramen noodles, hit us up. Atlas, my boys at Atlas. What up? Hit me with the sponsorship.
Oh, that's right. Ladies and gentle gamers, that's our show. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a pleasure to talk at you this morning. If you want to support the podcast, if you want more content just like this, head on over to patreon.com/goodmorninggamers with a Z. That's patreon.com/goodmorninggamers with a Z.